43% Nigerian, cosplaying as royals in Nigeria, inappropriate outfits, camera obsessed, staged photos, lies. It seems like pure desperation has finally hit. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Scandalous Media. It's Angela here, and today I'm going to talk about a highly anticipated topic that I never quite dove deep into, and that is Meghan Markle and her recent discovery of her being 43% Nigerian, and how she and Harry seem to use that to their advantage as they try to form their own version of a royal family. I don't know, but judging by their latest trip to Nigeria, these two clowns seem to think that they are the Prince and Princess of Nigeria, and I'm here to burst their bubble because the way they acted, it almost felt like an unreal experience. I'm talking inappropriate outfits at school, Freudian slips,
to be a Nigerian.
I'm just flattered.
Seemingly staged photos, and so much more. It felt like these two were in Nigeria just to create content for Netflix, and as usual, it left everyone feeling like we just finished shooting a promo for them and their lifestyle as opposed to knowing why they were actually there.
I just had my genealogy done a couple years ago. What? What are you? 43% Nigerian.
No way!
Before I dive deep into their bizarre Nigeria trip, I'm going to quickly recap Harry's sad trip to the UK, touch upon the possibility of Meghan actually being 43% Nigerian, as she claims, expose what Nigerians truly feel about Meghan, as well as recap the entire faux royal trip to Nigeria. As always, there are video chapters available. If you guys like my deep dives and updates on Harry and Meghan, let me know in the comments, like and subscribe for weekly videos, follow us on our social media where we post daily TikToks and Reels, check out the Scandalous Media merch store if you want to support us and rock some cool designs, and without further ado, let's begin. Prince Harry returns to the UK and no one wants to see him. Prince Harry returned to the UK to celebrate 10 years of the Invictus Games, but things weren't all smiles as he was, and it didn't seem like anyone was happy to see him. I mean, look at this photo. Leading up to his trip on May 8th, it was announced that he was set to check into a hotel room because the royals had not offered up any of their mini residences for Harry. If you recall, when Harry visited in September, he requested to stay at Windsor Castle, but the royal family, who cited a lack of notice, denied the request. On top of that, the Telegraph reported that King Charles was too busy to meet with Harry. So safe to say that any civil relationship he had with his family is down the toilet. I guess all he's left with is Meghan, her mother, his hiding children, and oh, who can forget, their newfound family in Nigeria.
In-laws.
Harry was there to celebrate 10 years of the Invictus Games, and People magazine got the exclusive, I wonder from who, that Harry extended invitations to his father and brother King Charles and Prince William, but they ditched him because poor widow Harry. It's so manipulative on Harry's part to play victim in the media by crying, oh, daddy and big brother didn't come, because he knows that people who may have the fortunate luck of not following up with he and Meghan's shenanigans over the past couple of years will quickly jump to his defense and attack his family for not being supportive, for isolating him, for not reaching out, for cutting him off, and so many other narratives that look bad, until you take into account that he betrayed his family multiple times by selling them out, making them a target on Netflix, allowing his wife, who if it wasn't for his family, would have faded into the oblivion where most D-list cable TV actresses go. But no, tell me more about how we should feel bad for Harry, who after making fun of his brother's balding and writing about childish lip gloss stories about his sister-in-law, somehow we're supposed to believe that anyone, royal or not, would accept that behavior and be a doormat to someone who clearly doesn't respect anyone else's privacy besides his own. Giving the people a victim story isn't always going to work when the facts are present. It's not like William and Charles were sitting in their rooms fighting with the press and sending emails on the same day of Harry's event, like some people. William had a different engagement where he awarded an MBE to Claire Van Straubenzee for the Harry Van Straubenzee Memorial Fund, which is an educational non-profit focused on Uganda and named after Claire and Alex Van Straubenzee's son Henry, who died in a car crash in 2002 just before he was due to go to the African country to work in a school. Mind you, the Van Straubenzees were close childhood friends of Harry and William's. Henry was Harry's best friend and Thomas was William's best man. Of course, Meghan had Harry cut off all his friends, so he's never really involved with anyone from his childhood. At the same time, King Charles hosted the first garden party of the season at Buckingham Palace, a tradition that dates back to the 1860s. But instead, the media will focus on how his family reportedly ditched Harry while feeding that Princess Diana arc by making mention of how the St. Paul's service was attended by her side of the family, including Harry's aunt, Lady Jane Fellows, his uncle Charles Spencer, and his cousin Louis Spencer, but no one else. What's even more pathetic is that Harry was feeding the media lies about how he may not attend because of security concerns, and that Harry is said to be considering cancelling his upcoming trip to the UK over said concerns after losing his security battle against the UK Home Office earlier this year, and that Harry was due to give a speech at the event, but now it appears he could instead appear via video link or a pre-recorded message because he is so scared to be there without security.
Really?
This entire sob story, only for him to not only appear at the event, but also soak in the praise and attention from the fans outside. He doesn't even seem to be worried about security here, does he? But regardless, it seems like people see right through him, which is why his event at Armory House in London seemed to have a handful of people with an empty table smack in front of the stage. Invictus originally posted this photo but then cropped out the embarrassment in a new tweet and limited the comments. If a front table is empty, you can only imagine what the rest of the event looks like. This begs the question, where is Meghan Markle? Is she only interested when the Netflix cameras are there filming? Why is she not there to support her husband at his flop event? Or did she not have her tube top and high slit skirt ready to wear to a professional event? Speaking of which, let's talk about our newfound Nigerian. 43% Nigerian. This topic gives me a headache because it is truly so bizarre. Meghan first claimed that she was 43% Nigerian on an episode of Archetypes, which I covered in my deep dive about her podcast. It didn't get much attention then, but it's her whole brand now. Here's the thing, most of you don't know this, but I have a degree in molecular biology and I studied epigenetics for many years. Genetics itself is a very complex topic, and sometimes there are anomalies present that don't fit the proper fold of what one would expect in DNA. So because Meghan's father is white and her mother is black, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be half-half, because that's not how genetics work. I can only assess this more in detail if Meghan provided the genealogy results she claims she has, which these ancestry DNA tests give you, but she doesn't. So I'm not going to spread lies and say, oh, it's impossible that she's 43% Nigerian, but I will say that I think she's lying about it for other reasons, or that she's not telling the full truth. Number 1. For Meghan to be 43% Nigerian, her mother would have to have some Nigerian heritage as well, but that is not mentioned at all except when Meghan said that Doria was surprised to hear that Meghan was Nigerian.
When I had done the genealogy and found out about my heritage, the first thing I did obviously was call my mom because I wanted to know if she had any awareness of it. And I think being African American...
Here's the thing, Doria's roots stem back to Ghana and the Ivory Coast, so 43% is quite the hefty number for a girlie who's also half white. This begs the question, does Doria have any Nigerian roots? If not Doria, then someone on Meghan's maternal side must have some link to Nigeria. Instead, the only heritage we know of is Meghan's apparent Maltese heritage. And half of your DNA comes from your mom, while the other half comes from your dad, so if she's 43% Nigerian, that's practically erasing any sort of other black roots from her mom's side of the family, and claiming everyone is Nigerian, which we know isn't true, especially since she has a whole white side as well. Meghan may very well have 43% Nigerian heritage, but that doesn't mean that she is in fact 43% Nigerian, which brings me to my next part. Number 2. 43% Nigerian, 50% Maltese, 7% BS. In 2015, Meghan traveled to Malta to supposedly explore her Maltese ancestry because she claimed that her great-grandmother Mary was born there in 1862. One would assume that she got a genealogy test then to figure out her alleged Maltese ancestry, right? How come nothing came up about Nigeria? And where does her Maltese ancestry fit into the story of her being Nigerian, considering she now refers to Nigeria as
My country.
I mean, just look at this acting.
It has been a whirlwind 24 hours since we arrived, and I've very quickly gotten the memo that I need to wear more color so I can fit in with all of you in your incredible fashion. So
She also signed a visitor book saying, "Thanks for welcoming me home." But what's hilarious is that she gave the same exact spiel when visiting Malta.
Coming to Malta has been really important to me because my great-great-grandmother is Maltese, and so we've been trying to trace the ancestry. My trip to Malta was mostly about trying to understand where I come from, my identity and my heritage. There is something so lovely about fitting in and being home. And to come somewhere where you so quickly settle in to feeling welcomed home is really special. It's this Maltese hospitality that is really special to the place and me.
and I to this country, my country.
And to come somewhere where you so quickly settle in to feeling welcomed home is really special.
your lineage, your background, where you come from specifically. And it was exciting for both of us to discover more and understand what that really means.
Coming to Malta has been really important to me because my great-great-grandmother is Maltese, and so we've been trying to trace the ancestry.
Never in a million years would I understand it as much as I do now.
Being here, right?
Being here.
My trip to Malta was mostly about trying to understand where I come from, my identity and my heritage.
It's been really eye-opening and humbling to be able to know more about my heritage and to be able to know this is just the beginning of that discovery.
It's this Maltese hospitality that is really special to the place and me.
Every single moment that I hear anyone so far talk about what it means to be a Nigerian woman, it is the most flattering thing to be in that company, to be in your company.
But now you have been promoted.
She very well could have both Maltese and Nigerian roots, but notice how she's only riding the coattails of the Nigerian story and not once bringing up the other time she did the whole ancestry road trip story? Who knows, she might claim she's part Slovakian next as long as that earns her an all-expenses paid trip where people can just praise her for no apparent reason. Was she inspired by Hilaria Baldwin,
Hilaria, it's like hola.
in switching up her ethnicity and identity every 2 business days?
How do you say it in cucumber? Cucumber.
Maybe Meghan is cultural fluid like Hilaria.
My country.
Number 3. What ethnic group are you from, Meghan? When she revealed the news of her new adopted heritage on Archetypes in 2022, she said that she did a genealogy test a few years ago, right?
I just had my genealogy done a couple years ago. What?
Well, surely a few years is enough time to answer a simple question of what ethnic group she belongs to.
Igbo, Yoruba, do we know?
And yet, when questioned about it, she stutters
So I'm gonna start to dig deep.
and says that she still has to dig deeper.
I'm gonna start to dig deeper into all this because anyone that I've told, especially Nigerian women, are just like, what?
Dig deeper into what? If Nigeria is,
My country.
as you say, and you feel so emotionally attached to your heritage, why is it taking you a couple of years to figure that out? Nigeria is a very ethnically diverse country and home to plenty of different tribes, and the DNA test she supposedly did would tell you exactly which ethnic group you belong to. But as usual, she couldn't do even a little research to make her lies more believable, because she thinks that she is much smarter than everyone else. And whenever we hear about Meghan and her Nigerian heritage, it's always followed up with comments of flattery instead of anything genuine.
It is the most flattering thing to be in that company, to be in your company.
It's always, and when I talk to Nigerian women, they're like, we know you're Nigerian, girl.
And what has been echoed so much, really, in the past day by men and women alike is, oh, we weren't surprised we found out you were Nigerian. Oh, no.
Oh, really? What gave it away? Was it surrounding herself with white people all her life and strictly dating white men only? Was it never getting along with successful black women such as Alison P. Davis or Garrett Bradley? Was it being rude to Dr. Sophie in front of a bunch of people? Was it having never been treated like a black woman before the UK? Was it never having the racism combo with your mother until she was racially profiled because you didn't feel the need to? It's her own words. Why is it that we never learn anything else about Meghan's Nigerian heritage unless it's people complimenting her about it? And yet when asked a simple question of,
Igbo, Yoruba, do we know?
she stutters and goes into her word salad default of, when I talk to Nigerian women, what women? Who are these Nigerian women you suddenly speak of? And where are their Maltese women? Number 4. Why not bring Doria on your trip to Nigeria? Why do you still know nothing about Nigeria? If Meghan really cared about digging deep into her heritage and the whole being 43% Nigerian wasn't some new token story she's using, as she did in Malta, why did she not bring her mother onto the trip? Assuming that's whom she got the Nigerian roots from and not her white father, I would assume Doria would be curious to learn more about their country of origin, no? Why not bring Archie and Lily to be welcomed home to their ancestral roots too? Alright, we had to listen to her whine about not being with her kids on Mother's Day, when one can argue that the kids are deprived of experiencing these things with their parents, as evidenced by their parents constantly leaving them with the nanny while they jet off all around the world.
Today's Mother's Day, so it feels appropriate that though of course we are missing our children, I'm missing my babies, it feels very appropriate to be in the motherland and amongst family. So thank you so much for the kindness and for these beautiful names.
Instead, she brought Misan Harryman to photograph everything and everyone, and while being there, Meghan didn't even sit with the genealogist who could have spoken about her ancestors or taught her more about what part of Nigeria they were from, and she didn't even travel to her ancestors' alleged village. Instead, she was gifted with books to learn more about Nigeria. But if this was important to her, one would assume that she would have already done that research. What happened to the whole,
I'm gonna start to dig deeper into all this because
You see, it's little things like this that make me feel like she's lying, or that she's finally clocking in her heritage story as something she can use for flattery and praise, as opposed to doing anything worthwhile. If she cared about doing good for her home country, she could have spread awareness about the human rights crisis in Nigeria and the fact that more than 1,700 school children had been abducted by armed groups since 2014, or I don't know, the Boko Haram conflict. What are you offering Nigeria, Meghan? Or is it all red carpet glam and fun for you? Nigerians react to Meghan. One Nigerian woman called her out for her diva attitude, saying
she comes in with a diva attitude and all the rest. No, I'm not proud.
You're not proud.
But rather, I'm more curious as to why she chose to be a Nigerian.
And another one said,
I like her for who she is, but she hasn't added value to Nigeria as a country.
If anything, they question her DNA results and even worse, her motive.
I'm more interested in what this DNA thing that they said they did, that she's 43%. I mean, I don't know. I don't trust it.
You want to see the proof?
Yes! One woman also says that her actions are not reflective of her being Nigerian, saying that Nigerians respect their in-laws and extended family, and that is not something that Meghan has done.
Her actions tells me she's not a Nigerian. I think she would have respected her in-laws, because that's the way we were cultured. We have aunties, uncle, we have extended family. She would have respected her extended family.
And as we all know, she cut off her extended family completely on both sides. So that says a lot, because ain't no way every single person is the problem and she's not. What's funny is that they say that the only thing that links her to Nigerian women is the fact that she's pretty. That's the only thing that she has going for her. An excellent point that one of the women made was the fact that how Meghan treated the royal family is reflective of who she is, because she couldn't flow with the family or back down from her own desires. Honestly, they made some great points that should be taken into account as they have given their perspective. And now that we covered the 43% Nigerian debate, let's talk about Harry and Meghan's trip to Nigeria and all the bizarre moments that I have gathered for you all. Faux royals. According to the Daily Mail, Meghan and Harry flew to Nigeria first class and were kept apart from other passengers by a curtain. Now, first class is always separate from other classes, but it's funny that they felt the need to separate themselves even more from people flying in the same class as them. It's giving stuck up. When you take into account that Harry and Meghan are no longer working royals, no one in Hollywood wants anything to do with them, and that their charity is practically a scam after being considered delinquent, one can't help but think that they're using this trip to Nigeria as a means of trying to create their own royal family by going to international trips and meeting with people. Except we don't know exactly what Meghan and Harry are doing there, besides Meghan trying to find out more about her home country, Nigeria. They weren't even invited by the president, but rather by the Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa. Honestly, the only thing they have going for them is the Invictus Games, which is bringing them connections, and of course Meghan has to jump on that bandwagon since there's nothing she brings to the Sussex Pyramid scheme besides word salad. Their engagements during the 3-day visit were centered around their core passions: sports rehabilitation, mental health, and women's empowerment. Same old BS they preach about, but it feels like it's all talk. Where are the funds that will actually help people as opposed to handing out 4 or 7 menstrual products? If Meghan had utilized the fact that she was reportedly 43% Nigerian during her days in the royal family, she could have been a great means of representation for Nigeria, and she could have established charities that could help people and fund money for those in need, considering more than 112 million people are living in poverty in Nigeria. Instead, it's so obvious that they're using Nigeria as a stepping stool to feed their own egos, where they're addressed with the HRH title, one that was removed by the late Queen Elizabeth after they stepped down as working royals.
Announce the arrival of our special guest, His Royal Highness, the Duke and Princess of Sussex.
And get this, Meghan is now being referred to as the Princess of Nigeria by fans after being honored as an Adamazi, seemingly a title of respect meaning daughter of an aristocrat, of the ancient Archewell kingdom. She wore a golden sash depicting the Adamazi title and also held onto a fabric depicting the Uru Archewell insignia. That's when she gives her little speech about not having the kids with her and calls Nigeria the motherland, saying,
"On the motherland and amongst family." So thank you so much for the kindness and for these beautiful names. I'm very grateful, and we can't wait to come back.
She's apparently now Princess of Arochukwu, the ancient kingdom. Let's see if she'll drop the Duchess of Sussex title to honor her newfound Nigerian roots, or if she'll weigh the options to see which title will get her more money. I'm laughing because Nigeria gave Meghan exactly what she desired: recognition, titles, and honor. Harry also spoke to the gathering, describing those in the room as his in-laws and that they're all family.
In-laws. I'll skip the protocol because at this point we're all family.
The way they are playing these sweet people is insane. I wouldn't want to be any family of Meghan and Harry's because that means I'm getting cut off, betrayed, and backstabbed in the media while victimizing myself all at the same time. I wonder if they would feel the same way if Nigeria didn't praise them on their all-expenses-paid trip, and not only that, but also given them 20 gifts that they were allowed to keep. If you recall, working royals can't accept gifts from people because, at the end of the day, they are public servants. They are there to serve the public, not be praised and given gifts as if they're celebrities. This is a concept Meghan failed to understand as she constantly wanted PR packages during her days in the royal family because Meghan's always thinking about herself and how something can serve her as opposed to how she can serve other people. And I think that's the main issue I have with their trip to Nigeria. The argument that they want to be treated like royals and cash in on the luxury of their lifestyle without actually doing much in return was proved by this trip. Outrageous outfits. Meghan caused a lot of controversy with her low-cut and high-slit outfits that were more appropriate for a cruise in the Bahamas as opposed to a trip to learn about your heritage. And at this point, we should all know that she does this on purpose to stay in the headlines while also getting the bonus of showing off. As someone who has blogged about celebrities for over a decade, it's well known that most, if not all of them, have stylists. These stylists sit with their publicists to curate a brand that they want to transfer over to the public. Disney stars, for example, aren't supposed to wear raunchy clothing to events because they have to maintain a kid-friendly persona. But if you wanted to shed that image, you would rebel and cause that controversy, which in turn will help album sales. Outfits convey a message, so if you're Doja Cat or Kim Kardashian, you know what kind of outfits will bring you headlines and what kind of outfits no one will remember to talk about. It's the same reason why royals have a strict protocol when it comes to their outfits, especially at engagements, because you have to remain that respectful and professional level with people. That's their job. You wouldn't show up to your kid's school or the office in a backless dress, so one would expect this type of respect and professionalism in return. Michelle Obama said it best. She refrained from wearing certain hairstyles and outfits during Obama's presidency because she didn't want the attention shifting from the cause she was talking about to what kind of style her hair was in. She explains that since she's no longer in that high-profile position, she can now do what she wants without fearing that it's going to overshadow where she wants the attention to be. She once said, "Let me keep my hair straight, let's get healthcare passed." And that was iconic. People are gonna talk regardless. The question is, are you gonna deliberately give them something to talk about, or are you gonna put your ego to the side and let your work do the talking? In the case of Meghan, she really does no work. And so for Meghan to show up to a school in a backless dress, one that's named Windsor, of course the media is gonna talk about the dress and the name of the dress and whether or not it's a snub to the royal family. But most people won't even know why Meghan and Harry are there and how did they serve the school and the kids. She also showed up in a really tight spaghetti strapped red dress and another extremely low-cut dress with a huge slit, where 1, she's overdressed, and 2, no one around her is wearing anything remotely like that. In this photo where she's wearing a tight white tube top dress, you can see that everyone around her is covered up, wearing traditional clothes and headwear, and there's Meghan, wearing an outfit fit for a VMA after party. I mean, she was invited to a lunch with the Minister of Defense, and this is how she shows up? Look at how these lovely women are dressed, and then look at Meghan in her club dress. It's ridiculous and so inappropriate, like I'm getting secondhand embarrassment from these photos. And again here with this high slit dress, people around her are wearing more casual outfits, short sleeves, and are modestly covered up, but bam, there's Meghan in her beach dress. She also made sure to pack on the bronzer while on her 43% Nigerian tour, but it seems like she forgot to get a tan on the rest of her body. She looks pretty, but she's also out of touch because she had like, what, 10 outfits in 3 days? That shows us that she's there to flaunt her outfits and get photographed as opposed to, I don't know, maybe wearing traditional clothes or at least having some sort of balance. She wore this beautiful yellow dress where she was gifted a golden sash depicting the Ada Mazi title and scarf, and later in the trip she did end up wearing a traditional skirt paired up with a white blouse, but again, no one talked about that. It was more about her tight white tube top dress and backless dress at a school. And despite Nigeria's rich endowment of resources including oil and minerals, the nation struggles with staggering levels of poverty, but that's not something Meghan took into account when she flaunted her wealth on the trip. It's reported that she wore nearly 120,000 pounds of new clothing and jewelry in 72 hours. So let's call it for what it is. She is someone who wants to flaunt her outfits and lifestyle and get praised for it, and that's why she comes off as ingenuine and humble. Talk about reading the room. Just for some perspective, Catherine, Princess of Wales, spent £35,000 on her Caribbean tour, which lasted a week. Meghan spent nearly 4 times that amount for 3 days. Meghan also flaunted her newly designed engagement ring, which looks quite different than the one Harry proposed to her with. What do you think she got done to it? Someone also compiled Meghan's outfits and how she seemed to have drawn inspiration from Princess Diana, because we know how obsessed she is with being the new Diana. One specific outfit was heavily influenced by Diana, down to the pointy shoes and colors and blazer and belt, and as I discussed earlier about Meghan knowing what outfits would get her talked about, it seems like this was intentional and creepy as always. But what really takes the cake is how they both acted. All for the cameras. In one video, you see that Meghan is mid-convo with these schoolgirls, but I guess she got bored or something because she then turns around to pose for the cameras and then walks away completely even though they were talking to her. In another, she can be seen manhandling this little girl to make her perform for the cameras when it's clear that the kid isn't interested, and you can tell by her putting her face down away from the cameras and Meghan basically forcing it and trying to pose. You can't tell me that something isn't wrong here. One of the funniest moments of the trip was when she was asked what it means to be in Nigeria, and the first thing she says is that she's flattered before anything else.
I'm just flattered and honored and inspired.
Ah, the Freudian slip, one of my favorite psychological phenomena where an unintentional error is regarded as revealing subconscious feelings. Thanks, Meghan, for summing up what we all felt. This trip was one big ego boost for you. Meghan was criticized for making this trip all about herself, trying to show off whatever outfits she could, and then the first thing she answers about the trip is how flattered she was there, because if you look at any photos of her at the event, she's treating it like they're all here to greet me, to praise me, to love me, even though the trip was supposed to show off their charity work with their Archewell Foundation, which I'm convinced is a tax scam, but we'll talk about that in a different video. And you can see the smug look on her face in photos. After all, she wasn't that great of an actress to begin with. Here you can see that Harry is pushed aside for Meghan, and look at his face versus her smug smile soaking in the attention. But Meghan wasn't the only one camera obsessed. There was this one really awkward video of Harry who seemed like he was staging a photo shoot with injured servicemen who were just laying there in hospital beds with no IVs, oxygen tanks, blankets, or any sort of equipment around them, just men laying there as Harry poses for photos. And something about it is just so off. People also pointed out that this one guy in the shot where Harry looks compassionate and attentive to what he is saying is the same man in this photo smiling at the cameras here. So did they tell the guy to lie down for the shot or what? Because this whole thing seems inorganic. And it seems like he wanted to recreate photos of his late mother, because it wouldn't be a Harry and Meghan privacy tour without channeling Princess Diana. But honestly, it's so disturbing that he's staging photos in Nigeria, acting like he gives a shit about Africa when he was urged to do something as president of African Parks when the Baka people were being raped and tortured by the guards hired by African Parks. And he can't even pretend that he didn't know about it because he was warned about the vicious rapes and sent a video testimony about human rights abuses by rangers employed by the charity months before he was promoted to the organization's board of directors. Months. And yet he still took the position. In a letter, Survivor International urged Harry to use your intelligence and position to stop these abuses being committed. And yet here he is in Nigeria, using his influence to stage photos with injured veterans to promote Invictus Games and his foundation that is deemed delinquent and only raised $1 million in 2023. Seems like he and Meghan are just funneling money into their own pockets, and Nigeria is the latest victim in this scam. How can they help people and donate money when their weird foundation has none? Where is this money going? I'm doing a whole deep dive on the Archewell scam, so put those post notifications on. This video here is so funny because not one person is waving at Meghan, yet here she is looking all around with her huge ego-filled smile, waving at everyone to get the camera shot so the media can use the photos and claim that everyone was excited to see their Nigerian princess. Then of course there was this awkward moment where they stood to hear the national anthem, God Save the King, you know, the same person who they attacked in the media, despite Meghan having said that he was responsible for all the black cultural elements of the wedding, and he's the one that put everything together while she was too busy cutting off both sides of her family, white and black. Also, why was the national anthem played for them? They are not working royals and they are not there on an official visit to represent the country and monarchy. So who are they representing? The strawberry farms of Montecito? Meghan also rambled about how important it is for her to be someone that people in Nigeria will see that she looks like them.
A familiar face for the next generation to say, oh, she looks like me, and I can be that.
Oh, that's no. In the sense that, no. You know what I mean?
And that somehow will allow women to achieve what they want, because she apparently looks like them.
What?
Oh, we weren't surprised when we found out when you were Nigerian. Oh, no.
Really?
The savior complex runs deep. She is also so tone deaf because for her to compliment Nigerian women, she starts it off by saying they resemble her, and that's the compliment.
Especially for young girls who need to see someone who looks like them.
And I say that mostly as a compliment to all of you.
And that's a compliment because they showcase her qualities of being brave, resilient, courageous, powerful, and beautiful.
What they define as a Nigerian woman is brave, resilient, courageous, powerful, beautiful.
Wow, the narcissism is on a different level. She's hilarious because here we have a biracial woman who is white passing and has never once showcased her culture, and had a white royal organize all the black elements of her wedding, while she claimed that she never got treated like a black woman.
Most people didn't treat me like a black woman.
Suddenly she's preaching about how she's gonna be some sort of savior for women. Meghan also refuses to admit that her white passing features come with a privilege that dark-skinned women may not have experienced, and the fact that she doesn't even wear her hair naturally, and she suddenly started packing on the bronzer in the years where she weaponized racism that she claims she never experienced.
Most people didn't treat me like a black woman.
Suddenly it's, oh, I look like all of you. Girl, give me a break. Not to mention that she always makes everything about race and somehow always has a problem with black people. Like when she got offended when the Queen offered her high-ranking black equerry to help her feel comfortable as she acclimated to palace life, and yet she felt insulted. And yet when the Queen brought Samantha Cohen out of retirement for Meghan, she didn't have a problem with the fact that Samantha was white. It's literal insanity. She also retells a story that she told in Archetypes where a Nigerian woman told her that they weren't surprised to hear she was Nigerian.
What are you? 43% Nigerian.
No way!
So I mean, I'm going to start to dig deeper into all this because anyone that I've told, especially Nigerian women, are just like, what?
But this time, she says that the past day of her trip in Nigeria, both men and women told her that they weren't surprised to hear that she's Nigerian.
Being here, and what has been echoed so much really in the past day by men and women alike is, oh, we weren't surprised when we found out when you were Nigerian. Oh, no.
Wow. What a coincidence that the only experience she can recount from Nigerians in 2022 and 2024 is that they both somehow said they weren't surprised to hear she was Nigerian. It's interesting how in different years, a bunch of different people managed to tell her the same thing. Seems like a fake story she invented to flatter herself and tokenize Nigerians some more, if you ask me. Here you can see the explosion of happiness in Meghan as she starts hopping from joy as Nigerian women embrace her. In another video, you can see a woman is talking, but Meghan demands the microphone, because I guess she wasn't done talking about herself. How do we know if the other woman finished what she was saying or not? Instead of waiting for the microphone to be handed to her, she asks for it, and it's a little awkward. Hey, at least this time she asked instead of marching at the woman and attempting to hijack the microphone as we saw at the Kevin Costner fundraiser. But anytime Meghan talked, it was a bunch of word salad. But nothing was more bizarre than Meghan recalling a story about her daughter Lily, who is not 3 years old yet, where she told students that, a few weeks ago, she looked at me and saw her reflection in my eyes. She said, "Mama, I see myself in you." Yeah, I'm sure their 2-year-old said that to you, Mrs.
Blue eyes.
Sort of like a...
Seems like she's making up stories again to deflect from the fact that she's always jetting off without her children while overcompensating by inventing stories about them. Meghan also claimed that she replied to Lily saying, "I thought, yes, I do see me in you, and you see me in you," Meghan told the students, "but as I look around this room, I see myself in all of you as well."
I do see me in you, and you see me in you, but as I look around this room, I see myself in all of you as well.
What the hell are you talking about?
Maureen Callahan writes, "Vintage Markle, me, have I told you about me?" It seems like Meghan recycled that one sentence over the 3 days. What's interesting is that during the entire trip, Meghan didn't partake in any cultural activities or traditions. She just sat back and watched, but she didn't try any traditional cuisine that was served either. There was nothing that occurred that made it seem like she was happy to be there, besides being granted gifts, getting honorary titles, and getting photographed in her outfits. So that's interesting. Now, landing back home in Los Angeles, we see Meghan and Harry in the same outfit they were photographed in Nigeria, but as it hit the press that the Archewell Foundation was deemed delinquent for failing to pay fees and submitting records, it seemed like Meghan and Harry were affected by the news as she was seen stomping away from him, while he's left behind carrying the bags. Either she's tired from the flight, or it's time to put away the lovey-dovey act as Harry checks into the rumored hotel he stays at when the cameras aren't rolling. But after they left Nigeria, the truth started seeping out. Financial investigation into Meghan and Harry's Nigeria tour. First off, Archewell is suffering its own scandal after being declared delinquent because they failed to file the charity's annual registration renewal fee since February 2023, claiming that a check was unintentionally not included when the filings were made.
Sure, Jan.
They even had the governor of California try to clean up that mess, but it's not going to stop people from looking into that scam of a charity, which I will dive deep into in a different video. But the cherry on top of all of this is talk of a financial investigation of their trip. Now, I didn't see many outlets covering the story besides this main outlet called Real News Magazine, which according to their contact information is based in Ikeja, the capital city of Lagos State in southwestern Nigeria, aka a local media outlet. So I'm assuming that mainstream media didn't pick the story up yet, or Meghan and Harry are trying to cover it up, but keep in mind that this is only one source of the story, so I'm not totally clear on the validity. But they report that the Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has urged for a comprehensive investigation into the recent visit of Prince Harry and Meghan to Nigeria. The association expressed concerns regarding the funding of the visit, questioning whether it was accounted for in any existing budget allocation, and demanded transparency concerning who financed the trip.
Damn.
They're not just questioning Harry and Meghan, but also condemning the extravagant hosting of wives of African presidents in Abuja, Nigeria, at a time millions of Nigerians are confronting the cost of the living crisis and adverse economic crunch. They state that because it was a private visit and not one with the British government, it doesn't make sense that Harry and Meghan were accorded significant diplomatic courtesies, raising questions about the involvement of Nigerian government departments and the expenditure of public funds for a private engagement. Seems like Nigerians are pissed off and aren't fond of being used. Well, that's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my recap of their Nigeria trip, as well as a deep dive into the controversy surrounding Meghan's newfound heritage. Do you think she's lying about being 43% Nigerian? What did you think about their trip? Did anything else crazy happen that I missed? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more videos each week. Follow us on our social media, check out the Scandalous Media merch shop, and as always, I'll see you next time.